So, about 12 years ago, I was involved in a project called The Stuff Americans Are Made Of. And the concept of the project was to come up with the central underlying motivational forces that really motivate people on their own to do things of very high quality, breakthrough quality on the work. And what we discovered, and by the way, this is with a blue ribbon group of companies led by Disney. And what we discovered is that there are 4 basic levels of motivation that you find in the workplace. One is survival, and we hear this about all the time. You know, you're just lucky to have a job, so just shut up and keep working. We don't need to talk about anything else. 2 is beat the competition. In the 80s, the mission of Pepsi was beat Coke. So oftentimes senior leaders are really excited about that. We've got to be number one, we got to be number one, we got to be number one, but the employees are not so sure about the we got to part. That's kind of the macho sports metaphor way of running business. Then there's a lot of companies whose primary motivation is to achieve goals. And I've worked with lots of those kinds of organizations. So we're going to get 40% annual growth this year. This is harvest season. We're going to buckle down, brothers and sisters, and really put our shoulder into it, right? I've seen a lot of professional services firms just try to reach unbelievable goals. Remember they call them stretch goals? Yeah. That's code word for you're going to really work hard this year. And I've been with a lot of organizations that have met their stretch goals, and we have these celebrations and dinners, and of course what they're talking about at that dinner after that year of hard work is how hard they're going to have to work next year, because guess what? You proved you could do it. Now we're going to really see what you can do. So those are the 3 common kinds of motivational forces that you find in the workplace. But we found one other. And the only way that we could talk about it is the words change the world. In other words, there are employers who absolutely, positively not only support, but are strategically invested in changing the world according to their strengths, according to the strengths of the organization. And this is a place where people feel they can express their values. Now, does this work? Well, Procter & Gamble did a study 2 years ago on the top brands in the world, looked at 30,000 global brands. The top 25 are all high-purpose brands. In other words, they were brands that stood for something more than commerce, more than self-interest. Brands that stood for making the world a more sustainable, better, more enriched place. Jim Collins, a famous author who constantly does research, of course did Built to Last and Good to Great, finds that having this kind of motive really pays, that high-purpose companies financially outperform the market by 15 to 1. That's not 2 to 1. That's not 1.5 to 1. That is 15 to 1. That is unmistakable. And that we find that in every way, that if saving the world is the core part of an organization's purpose, and that strategy, culture, and brand are linked together, then on anything that we want to measure, whether it's productivity, talent retention, or net margin, the average is 8 to 1 over a purpose-driven company versus a metric-driven company. You know what I mean by a metric-driven company? That's when our vision is to grow 6%. Yeah. Yeah, it's not a vision, is it? That's a number. So it's not surprising that people are not really motivated by that. What's surprising is that anybody thinks they would be.